Welcome and thank you for joining us. My name is Marla Tyree. I'm board president here at our Treehouse. We are the sole provider in Whatcom County of grief services for children, their families, teens, and young adults. And we couldn't do this without you. We have a fun event planned for you. We're sorry we can't be with you in person, but Dan Radill has joined us from Whatcom Beer and Wine Foundation, Lydia Faber from Graze and Gather, and they're going to present how-to for Thanksgiving and your entertaining season for wine and charcuterie. I hope you enjoy. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome and thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Caitlin and I'm the Executive Director at our Treehouse. This past week, the CDC published data showing that more than 140,000 U.S. children under the age of 18 lost a parent or caregiver to COVID. In Whatcom County, this suggests that over 35 children have lost a parent or caregiver due to COVID. Recent statistics suggest that marginalized populations have been hit particularly hard. Along with families that have been impacted by COVID-related deaths, our Treehouse continues to serve youth and families impacted by death by other causes, including accidents, long-term illnesses, homicide, and suicide. Death is not a one-dimensional statistic. Its impact ripples across time, leaving holes in the present and future where loved ones used to be. Unaddressed childhood grief and trauma can lead to mental health challenges, poor academic performance, and early mortality. At our Treehouse, we seek to normalize the grief experience and serve as a respite for grieving youth and families in our community. Over the course of the last year, we have also seen a dramatic rise in the need for grief support programming, from increased number of families seeking our services to frequent calls from mental health providers in our community requesting clinical support for their clients. The needs far outweigh the services that we are currently able to provide. We are committed to growing and adapting to meet the needs within Whatcom County, but we can't do this without you. Your support today will enable us to offer in-house peer support programming for more children and families in our community, to expand our school-based programming, and to offer clinical programming to those seeking additional intensive grief support services. In addition, your gifts will allow our Treehouse to collaboratively host a community-wide COVID memorial event in spring of 2022. Grieving children and families need us, and we need you. Together, we can make a difference for grieving children in our community. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce you to Erin Leadham, and she's going to talk to us about family night here at our Treehouse.
Hi, my name is Erin Leadham, and I am the Youth and Family Coordinator for our Treehouse, and I'm here to tell you about family night. It's really special. We meet every other Wednesday in person in the evening, and then on alternating Wednesdays we meet over Zoom. And the structure of both of those nights look very similar. Family night begins with an opening circle. We talked about what is grief. That can look like and be so many different things. On every family night we start with a book. On this particular night, we read the book, Grief is a Mess. I love reading children's books to anybody, teens and adults alike. I think there are great lessons to be learned from books, and they serve as a useful tool to kind of transition into a psychoeducational piece where we get more into kind of the nitty-gritty of what we're trying to learn for the night. Sometimes we use the whiteboard, and it's an open forum for family members to just share how they identify with grief. So as you can see, there are a lot of different adjectives on here. Anything from grief is, to me, fear, or it's remembering, or it's confusing or lonely. And this is a very intentional exercise. It's a time for our caregivers and our youth to notice similarities and differences. All of those are okay, but in doing that, we're building connection. So the night keeps building on itself, and we're using that book that we had read as a tool. We're using our psychoeducational activity as a tool, and all of that culminates in a shared family activity. So that first night that we met, we talked about all the different ways that grief shows up in our body. So this is actually what I used in our virtual group. This is the body map color emotion key. We identified colors that represent different feelings. So on here's things like fear, loneliness, tired, longing, and then the different family members marked where in their body their different emotions showed up. So that's an opportunity for families to turn inward and notice similarities and differences within their own families. It's also a time for families to really intentionally talk about their grief and the way grief is showing up for each individual and how that ends up really culminating in the family system. So after the shared family activity, then it's time for the kids to move into their own space and the caregivers to move into their own space. So when the kids move on to their child-centered play, this is an opportunity for them to use all of our tools, like the sand tray, puppet theater, dress up, a multitude of art supplies. They have all of this at their disposal as tools to process their grief, and they have trained volunteers available to help facilitate that process. But it's also just really important for kids to be around other grieving kids. It's not necessary for them to be actually talking about their grief. What's important is that they feel like they're around kids who understand, and that they understand without even needing to say anything. And while the kids are downstairs, the caregivers move upstairs, and this is an opportunity for adults to process a multitude of things. This could be talking about what it's like raising a child that's grieving. It could just be an opportunity to share what grief feels like from an adult perspective. So when the groups transition back into our shared space, we again have a circle and we close for the evening as we transition back into life outside of our treehouse, and we light a candle and we say who we're lighting it for and what we're looking forward to. And that is the end of family night.
And now a few words from Dan Riddell, who's going to talk to us about wine pairings for the holiday season.
Greetings, wine lovers. My name is Dan Riddell. I'm a longtime resident of Bellingham, Washington wine enthusiast, wine educator, and a freelance wine writer for a number of regional publications. I'm also president of the Whatcom Beer and Wine Foundation. I'm here today to talk about a couple of things. First off, I'm going to give you a few wine choices for your Thanksgiving dinner. And then second, I'll give you a couple of recommendations for your upcoming holiday season that you can serve to family and friends. So let's talk a little bit about the Thanksgiving meal. You know, it's a fun time. There's a lot of good food, good wine, time to spend with family and friends, but it can be stressful, especially if you're in the planning stages of getting the table ready, preparing the food, and having to deal with crazy old Aunt Zelda. What you want to do is relax, because wine selections for your Thanksgiving dinner are a breeze. The reason is the foods that you're serving with your traditional dinner aren't heavily seasoned, aren't heavily spiced, and they won't get in the way of the flavors of the wine. So think about it. You've got your roast turkey, mashed potatoes and gravy, bread stuffing, and the ubiquitous green bean casserole. None of those have a lot of seasons or spices that are going to get in the way of your flavors of your wine, because ideally you want to be able to taste both the food and the wine. That's the goal when you're doing your wine pairings. For your white wine selections, you might want to pick something traditional like a Chardonnay. I tend, though, to lean towards white wines that have a little crisper acidity, because that acid cuts through the fat content of your food, allowing you to taste both the food and the wine. So you might want to choose a nice, slightly sweet Riesling. Could also be in a dry style, or a nice dry Sauvignon Blanc. Or I'd like you to think outside the box a little bit and choose something a little bit different. My selection would be Chenin Blanc. Chenin Blanc is an older varietal in Washington State. It was really popular back in the late 70s and early 80s before Chardonnay took over. But it's a great varietal, it's got plenty of nice acidity, and it should be an excellent pairing with your Thanksgiving meal. My selection for Thanksgiving dinner is the Kiona Vineyards 2020 Chenin Blanc. This wine was produced over in the Red Mountain region of eastern Washington, which is about 20 miles west of the Tri-Cities, if you're familiar with that area. It's owned and operated by the Williams family, and they are pioneers of the Washington wine industry. They've been producing wines at their winery for probably about 40 years. This Chenin Blanc is made from Columbia Valley grapes, And I'm going to open it up here and give it a taste and give you an idea of what you can expect when you serve it. So for starters, you want to do a little swirling to lift those nice aromatics out of the glass. You're going to come up with some beautiful stone fruit aromas like peach and nectarine. You've also got a little tropical note in here that's really nice that pops out of the glass. And then take a sip and I'll describe some of the flavors on the palate that you're probably going to see. You know, it's really super delicious all the way around. You get some nice Bartlett pear flavors, and the finish has got that nice crisp acidity with maybe just a little bit of citrus. And you've also got a tiny bit of residual sugar, 1.1%, which is just barely perceptible. So it's not overly sweet, but you don't come across as tasting the wine as sweet because that nice crisp acidity balances it out. This wine is practically guaranteed to be a favorite of everybody at your Thanksgiving table. For my red wine selection for Thanksgiving dinner, and yes, you can serve red wine with Thanksgiving, I've chosen the 2019 Zinfandel from Thurston Wolf Winery. Again, with your red wines, you got to be a little bit careful as far as overwhelming the flavors of the food. So I'd steer clear of maybe a Syrah or a Cabernet Sauvignon and go with something perhaps just a little bit lighter. Pinot Noir makes a great choice. You could do a Sangiovese, maybe a Grenache. Again, I'm going to ask you to think outside the box a little bit and try a Zinfandel. And this Zinfandel from Washington State is just absolutely amazing. Checks all the boxes for decent acidity, good tannins, good fruit flavors, and it's not super high in alcohol and super brash like a lot of Zinfandels from California are. So this one is from Dr. Wade Wolf, owner winemaker, who again has been in the industry for at least 3-4 decades. And this Zinfandel is from the Prosser area, which is where the winery is located. And again, that's located probably about 20-25 miles west of the Tri-Cities, between Yakima and the Tri-Cities. So I'm going to pop this Zinfandel open. I'm excited about this wine. I've had it before. It's amazing. And let's give this a taste. Again, I'm going to do a little swirling, get those nice aromatics up and out of the glass. Boy, right away you get some nice plummy aromas, maybe a little bit of pepper, a little licorice is a nice opener to this wine. It gets you all excited for what you're going to be able to taste. Wow, really nice, fresh, red fruit flavors of plum, cherry, and I love on the back end how this has a little bit of pepper and a little bit of baking spice. You also notice by the color, it's not too dark. It's a little lighter style than, again, some of those California Zins. I think your guests are gonna love this for a red wine pairing with your Thanksgiving meal. Thurston Wolf 2019 Zinfandel. Bonus here, it only costs about $20 a bottle, and it was a double gold medal winner at the Bellingham wine competition judging that we held this last year. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about some holiday wine selections that you might serve to family and friends during the upcoming holiday season. I think the key here is you want to get something that you can serve to a wide group of people. And whether people like wines or not, probably your best bet is to pick something in the middle of the road that has broad-ranging crowd appeal. And so I've got a couple selections today that I think are really going to fit the bill. My first choice is the Longship Cellars Luck Dragon 2020 Chardonnay. This wine is absolutely amazing. It's produced by Kyle and Cassie Welch, a younger couple that are from Richland, again over in Eastern Washington. Kyle is the winemaker, and he's doing an amazing job with a lot of the wines that he's doing, and this Chardonnay is no exception. So I'm going to open this up now and give it a taste. Okay, I'm going to just pour a little sample here. Wow, this wine has some amazing aromatics. It's definitely more tropical, I think, than citrusy. And let's give it a taste here and see what kind of flavors you can expect. Amazing. You get some really nice tropical fruit, guava, pineapple, and then the back end of this wine has a finish that's really soft and buttery and toasty, maybe with a little bit of vanilla bean in it. A gorgeous wine that I would not hesitate to serve to family and friends during the holidays. It retails for about $28 a bottle, so it's a little bit of a step up in price. Absolutely worth it. My final selection for holiday wines is from Brian Carter's cellars in Woodinville. Brian Carter is the master blender, as they call him here in Washington State. He takes a lot of different varietals, blends them together, and you get all the good qualities of each individual varietal, and they just make an exponentially better wine, I think. So my choice for today on this is the 2017 Abracadabra red wine. This is comprised of 4 red varietals. You get Syrah, Cabernet Sauvignon, Grenache, and Mourvedre. Now the Syrah and the Mourvedre tend to carry a little bit of a smoky element to it, kind of a sultry quality. The Cabernet Sauvignon is nice, tannic structure, gives the wine a little bit of backbone. And the Grenache is a little lighter and brighter, so it kind of lifts things up. So you combine all 4 of those varietals and you get what I think is a great crowd-pleasing wine, especially for red wine drinkers. So let's give this one an open and a taste. And this one retails for about $25. So again, it's really reasonable. The tasting room is in Woodinville, so it's close to home as far as Bellingham wine enthusiasts are concerned. Let's give this one a try here. Really nice little dark plummy elements that come to the front on the nose. And you get the really dark, inky, black plum fruit on the palate, maybe a little smokiness, nice texture. Again, this is going to be, I think, a good, solid, all-purpose wine that's going to bridge a lot of gaps in red wine lovers' preferences and cover all the bases because you've got 4 great varietals in one glass. So that's the Brian Carter Cellars 2017 Abracadabra. As far as availability is concerned, you can find these wines at area Hagen stores or also check the Cordata location of the Community Food Co-op. Another option is to go online where you can order all these wines directly from the winery. And finally, my last suggestion, which I think is the most fun and the best, is to go visit the wineries firsthand. Once you experience the tasting room and maybe get a chance to talk to winery personnel and the winemaker, it's a great experience and you'll find that you go back and do it again and again because it's so much fun. I'm Dan Riddell. Those are my wine selections for Thanksgiving and the holiday. Wishing you happy holidays and cheers.
Allie Brooks is here. She is our coordinator for the Young Adults and Teen Program, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about how we've adapted this year.
My name is Allie Brooks. I am the Teen and Young Adult Coordinator for our Treehouse. For Teen Night, we were hoping to create a space for teens to come together with shared experiences that they felt that other people would understand. It looks a little different with COVID, and in the beginning, we would start with pizza for everyone, and then we would start with an opening circle. So we would start with our name, the person who died, and then just a fun question to open up the night. So like for Halloween, we would say, what is the favorite costume that you've ever worn for Halloween? Right after that, we would start with an activity. So a good example is the question jar. In person, we actually have a physical jar, but for online, we've been utilizing Slack, which is just an online chat channel that is a private channel. And that's actually been a really innovative way to have the teens talk to each other. And I think that sometimes they feel like they can express a little bit more than when they were in person. We have the teens submit an anonymous question and then read them throughout the night so that they feel like they can get questions answered without having to disclose who they are. That's been really useful, especially online. Another really awesome aspect of that too is that we can share pictures. So most of the teens really love to share their pets, myself included. Also, with doing everything online right now, we have to get really creative with doing activities. So for instance, before Halloween, I'll be dropping off boxes at the teens' houses with a mini pumpkin, paint brushes, and then some chocolate or something like that. We're all gonna get on Zoom, and the point of the activity will be the faces of grief. So Normally for Halloween, you carve a pumpkin just like normal, and it's just one face. With this activity, we'll have them paint one face, which is representative of what they feel they show to anyone on the outside. And on the opposite side of the pumpkin, they'll paint the face that they feel like they don't share to other people, that they're not able to share. So it's ways that we can incorporate grief into fun activities. So our young adult group serves ages 18 to 25. Young adult group is our newest group. It was started in 2020. We heard from young adults in the community that they felt like they didn't have a space to share their experiences. They'd seen people in hospice be able to share. They'd seen younger kids be able to share, but not a group for young adults. So Young Adult Night meets bi-weekly over Zoom. We start similarly to Teen Night, so we start with the opening circle, which is your name, the person who died, and normally we just start with how your week has been going, and this actually opens into a really great opportunity for the young adults to just be able to share what's been going on. This has been a great way to bridge the gap between starting with something that feels really heavy and just kind of getting there naturally. And I think that that's actually really helpful to open up a conversation that feels really casual. Another example of activities that we've been able to do over Zoom with the young adults is a scavenger hunt throughout your house, which is essentially just show and tell, which actually lands really well with adults as well as children. What we have been doing is something that brings you joy, something that is hobby related, and then something that's grief related. And this could be anything. This could be an item from the person that died. It could be a journal. It could be something that represents grief for you. After the activity, we end with a closing circle, which is just something that you're looking forward to the rest of the week. And that kind of helps to end the more emotional space and get into life and not feeling like they're just going from something heavy into regular life again. Both of these groups have been equally beneficial to facilitate connection and build community. If you'd like to learn more, please visit our website or give us a call.
Lydia Faber is here, and she's going to show us how to put together the perfect charcuterie for our holidays.
Hi, my name is Lydia Faber, and I am the owner of Graze and Gather. We are a local gourmet charcuterie company that services all of Whatcom County. So I've been asked to teach you and show you how to prepare a holiday charcuterie board. So I'd first like to start by showing you the different cheeses that we'll be using. So as a rule of thumb, when making a charcuterie board, you always want to use an odd number of cheeses. So today, because of the size of our board, I've chosen 5 cheeses. It's always important to use a different variety. So I like to start with our French Brie. All of these products that I'm using today are easily accessible to anybody that lives around here. And then I have a spreadable cheese, which is our Boursin. It's a garlic and fine herb flavor, and this can be found at most grocery stores. The next cheese I like to show you is the farmhouse cheese. This is made here locally at the Twin Sisters Creamery. It is such a creamy, buttery cheese, and it has kind of a citrus tang to it, and it pairs so well with different jellies and honeys. And then we have a crumbly cheese, which is a white Stilton cheese with cranberries. Our last cheese is a firm, hard cheese, and it's a creamy Toscano, and it's dusted with cinnamon, which makes it a great choice for your holiday board. So next I want to talk about the meats that we'll be using, and kind of the same rule of thumb. You want to choose odd numbers over even numbers on your board. Today, because of the size of the board, I've gone with 5. So I have 5 different meats I like to use. The first is a Columbus aged salami, and it's made with crushed white and black peppercorns and Burgundy wine. And then I have here a antipasto. It has 4 different varieties of meat. It's got a black pepper coated dry salami, an Italian dry salami, a dry coppa, and a prosciutto. And then every cheese board eats crackers or bread, of course. So today we've chosen 3 different kinds. This is the Great Artisan Cracker. It's a La Panzanella. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. So this product is actually made in Tukwila, Washington, and it's a great accessory to your cheese board. And then we just have some water crackers. These are really yummy. These are cranberry and sea salt artisan crisp. They taste so good, like with the softer cheeses, like with the Breeze and the farmhouse cheese. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the fruit and the veggies. So today, I have a variety of different fruits and vegetables. Whenever I can, I like to choose seasonal fruits. Sometimes during the winter, it's harder to find fruits for your cheese board, but there's always something out there that will make a good addition to your board. So today we have a couple of pears, we have a couple of these tiny little apples, grapes. This is a different type of grape here. This is actually called a moondrop grape. We've got our pomegranate, blackberries, strawberries, little tomatoes, little cocktail cucumbers, and then we've got some blueberries, some oranges, some fresh figs. So the next thing we're going to use on our cheese board is we're going to add some Kalamata olives, and I just love the dark, rich color. It just looks so great on a holiday board. And I've also got some little cornicons. I've got some blueberry jam. And of course, we've got some honey. Every cheese board needs some honey. And we've also got some dried oranges. And then it's always nice to add some nuts to your board. And today I've chosen the orange honey hazelnuts. And these are from Holmquist Hazelnuts, which is also a local company. In our kitchen, we always like to make different barks, and this is the vanilla bark that has pumpkin seeds and pistachios with cranberry and a little bit of coconut, so we're going to add that to our board as well. Every board needs something sweet, so we picked up some little Belgian chocolates, and then we have some fresh rosemary and lavender, and we're good to go. So let's get started. We got our crackers down on one side. Put some crackers here. And there's no rules. It's just you want to make sure that you have a good variety and mix it up so that you can please different palates. And as you go, you might move things around. Yeah, just be creative. We're going to start with our brie cheese. And I like to just take a smaller piece of brie and just kind of lay it on top just to give it some height. And then we've got our farmhouse cheese from Twin Sisters Creamery. And this is such a fun way. You just cut it in a little wedge, and then you can see that, but you just always just looks so pretty on a cheese board. It's fun to arrange things differently. Just brings attention to it. And then we have our crumbly Stilton cheese. Let's see. That would pair great with these cranberry crackers. We've got our Forsen. I think we'll go with them in the middle of that. See how that's like in a nice kind of triangle shape? You can either put it down like that, or what I like to do actually is to kind of just fan it out. Good thing to remember is you want to make sure that you kind of cut up your cheese before putting it on the board. Otherwise, your guests won't want to break into it. And then a fun way to display your salami is to make a little salami rose. And we're just using a little 2-ounce plastic cup. And we're going to start by taking 4 little pieces of salami and just putting it around the cup. That's going to be your outer petals. Okay, so just looks just like that. And then we're going to take the salami, we're going to fold it in half, and you're just going to roll it up tightly like that. And then you'll take another folded salami and you'll kind of take it on the seam and wrap it around there, and then just keep going. As you can see, it's already starting to look like a little rosebud. I would say probably about 5 or 6 salamis for the center of our rose today. Okay, so it's going to look like that, and then we're going to fit that right inside of our, and there we go, we've got ourselves a rose. The next salami I'm going to use is the really aged dry salami, the one we talked about from Trader Joe's. Let's see, let's go down in the corner here with that. So a good thing to remember when you're purchasing cheese and meats for your cheese board is that I usually choose about 2 ounces per person for cheese and about 1 ounce of meat per person. That's a good rule of thumb. For prosciutto, that I just laid down is you want to take your prosciutto and you just kind of want to fold that in half, form like a little fan, so it looks like a little ribbon. Okay, there you go. Got some peppered salami. Let's go on the corner over here with that. So next we're going to put down some of our fruits. So boursin or spreadable cheese always goes really well with cucumbers. So I'm placing the cucumbers close to the boursin cheese. And our olive board, let's go here with our olives and pickles. I've got some little microgreens here. So we're gonna put those down. It will just make a great little bed for our tomatoes. So we'll just add those around there. I try to keep the veggies in one place on the board and the fruit closer to our softer cheeses like the brie in our farmhouse. So now that we've got our cucumber and our tomatoes down, I want to add some of these cute little corns. So we're going to put those, let's put these right here by the bruschetta. You know, I don't know if I like that, so I'm going to move it around. And the reason I changed it was because these colors are too close and the little corns don't really stand out. Okay, so we're going to put our honey by our brie because honey always tastes so good with our brie. And we'll make sure to put a lot of fruit around the honey and brie as well. And then we have a blueberry jam here, and that will pair nicely with the cranberry crumbly cheese. So we'll put that in the middle there. So a board this size is going to serve upwards between 12 and 16 people. It kind of depends whether you're serving it on its own or you're serving it before dinner. Little apples are just so cute. They're called rocket apples. So now we're just going to add some of these dried oranges. They're just so festive looking. We're going to add those behind these little rocket apples and our moon grapes. We'll put a couple here. Let's put a couple on this side of the board as well to bring some color in. So you just kind of want to balance your color on the board. So we have a lot of reds over here, so we probably don't want to do more reds. We got a lot of red here. So let's put some right here, just break it up a little. And the blueberries are great because often you have like little spaces between your cheese and they just kind of help to fill it in. Let's put some blueberries in here. We'll add some blackberries there as well. The pomegranate is a great addition to your holiday board. Not only tastes good, but it looks so pretty as well. So we just want to tuck a few pomegranates in here. Got some pomegranate seeds that we're gonna just sprinkle over the top of our brie here. I just thought these red pears were so pretty. And when you're serving pears or apples on your charcuterie board, you wanna wait until the last little bit before you add them, just because they can color. What you can do is you can actually sprinkle some lemon juice on it, and that helps them to stay white and not turn brown. We're gonna try to fit this pear in the corner here and bring some brightness to this part of the board. Add some strawberries, oranges, these little mandarins. See if we can find a place for them. So like you can see, there really are no rules when putting a cheese board together. Just add little bits here and there. The best thing is just lots of variety for lots of different palettes. So now we're just kind of trying to fill in the areas, and that's where nuts are great. We're gonna add some of these orange honey hazelnuts. Got these fresh green figs that kind of scream holiday. Figs always pair great with brie as well and the soft cheeses, so we're gonna put those around there. I like to add a little bit of rosemary. Got some fresh lavender. Let's tuck some in there. Tuck a little bit into the top of the boursin, make the boursin look pretty. So every board needs something sweet, and we're just adding our vanilla bark actually with pumpkin seeds and cranberry, very festive. And then we've got these cute little Belgian chocolates. So you can see these are actually little corns, kind of like the real little corns that we use. So it'd be fun to place those by the corn. So we're just gonna tuck a couple in there. Great little surprise. So I always like to add some fresh flowers to my board. It just brings color and just makes it look festive. One of the last things you want to do is make sure that you have enough little utensils for your guests to use. So we've got a couple of cute little wooden utensils that we're going to use today, and just place them in a couple different places around the board. Got a great little honey stick. Honey, and we'll put another little one by the boursin, and there you got it. We're done. Here's your holiday board. And that completes our charcuterie board for today. Thanks for letting me be a part of this fundraiser. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you.
In my house, it was always me and my mom and my sister, and then now also my little brother. My name's Kylie, and the person who died is my dad when I was 16.
So Lincoln is 3 now. So how old were you when Lincoln was born?
I was in 8th grade. My favorite thing to do with my family was going camping, and it was always really fun. We would go on the river and just put up a tent and make top ramen over the fire, and yeah, it was a really good time. My dad would always be there, and he was the best at making the fire, and he would always fish.
Do you have a favorite camping trip that you guys went on?
I had one where my best friend and her family came, and it was like everybody brought their own friend, and so we were all like this giant group on the river.
Do you have any holiday, like Halloween family memories?
Every year we do the glow station with Christ the King, and so we'll like go pick up candies and like little toys and stuff, and we just put up like a table and we'll decorate around it like our house, and then kids come up and we can make goodie bags or something.
That sounds fun.
And there's like glow sticks and yeah.
Was your dad a Halloween fan?
Not as much, but he liked it.
He liked it. Did he have a favorite holiday?
Probably Christmas,
Okay.
because that was when everybody came together and got to be nice and warm around the fire. He had a fireplace that he loved. So.
So how old were you, Kylie, when your dad got sick?
Oh.
Take a minute.
It's okay.
To the degree that you're able, and you can say you don't want to, can you share a little bit about what you remember about how you found out?
He was a chef, and so he collapsed one time at work, and he had been having back pain before and wasn't really sure what it was. And when he went into the doctor, he found out. My mom and dad, they never got married, but they were always really close because they grew up together too. And so after they broke up, they're still like best friends. And so I remember she was on the phone with him one time, and she gave each of us the phone, and he said, "I have cancer," because he was crying and it was hard for him to get out. I can like still hear his voice. I remember my mom saying that could be a possibility, but it was something that we all just kind of were like, no, that wouldn't happen to us because it's such a nightmare of a thing. So when he told me, it was kind of like I was so shocked that I didn't really process it. And I feel like over time, I still didn't like register it. He had good days to where it was like he definitely didn't seem sick to me, and he would express his pain to my mom, but it was like he would hide it from me and my siblings because it wasn't something he wanted us to worry about. But later on, when he went into hospice, it was like we weren't able to like not think it was happening, so that was when it became really real. He was given 6 months, but he did 2 years after his diagnosis.
Did he die at home?
He wanted to. We set up a hospital bed in his living room so he could like be closer to everything. And we had an oxygen tank set up, and I made his bed, but he didn't end up being able to come home. But every time we would visit him, he would say that he's getting out tomorrow and that he needs to pack his things. The nurses said they don't know why he keeps saying that, because they didn't tell him that.
He knew, he was ready.
He's super stubborn.
Are there traits that you feel like you share with him?
I really like cooking. He was a chef, so that's a big thing. And then also, I really like drawing, and he was an awesome drawer. My mom always says that I didn't get it from her.
What about the stubbornness?
I think my sister got that.
Did she?
Yeah.
What were those first couple weeks, months before you found Treehouse? What were those like for you?
It was really hard. It was a lot of, so he lived in Everett, for the last like few years, And so it was like trying to do online school while driving back and forth to Everett every few days and staying in his house and trying to pack stuff up. Also staying there when he was in hospice so we could visit him. So it was definitely hard being in that environment and trying to like keep my cool. It was a lot of family time and a lot of all of us getting together.
Can you talk a little bit about, I know we touched on like the isolation and maybe the loneliness, but just what it was like those first couple weeks after he died?
At the beginning, if we weren't talking about him like every second, I felt guilty. Then I realized that that's not how I should feel.
What do you think helped you realize that?
Definitely talking with my family.
How many siblings do you have, Dad?
I have an older sister and then my little brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how much older is your older sister?
She's 21.
21, okay. So you guys are what, like
4 years.
4 years different. Okay. Would you say that you guys coped pretty differently with your dad's illness?
100%. We coped like exact opposite. With everything, even when we would visit him or talk about it, it was like my only reaction is to cry. My sister has almost a reaction where it looks like she doesn't care, which kind of, at first, it made me upset because I was like, oh, why am I the only one feeling this? But I've had like conversations with her and it's just people grieve differently, which is super weird because it can make it feel like you're more alone because you're like, oh, why am I doing this and they're not? But yeah, we felt different. So I learned about Treehouse through hospice. They like coordinated it with me and my older sister. She would be like part of a different group. She didn't end up doing it, but I was really looking forward to it because, like I said, me and my sister grieve differently, so I thought like connecting with people who might be grieving the same would be nice. So we went through with it and it was really nice and I'm glad that I did. So joining, we did Zoom call where we talked about who I lost and why Treehouse would benefit me and then what we'd be doing. On Slack, we do question jar, which is something that's nice because if I'm feeling like I'm the only one dealing with something, I ask my peers and hear that everyone else feels the same way, especially about school when COVID was happening, like when COVID had online school. And just hearing everybody say that they were having a really hard time and, oh, my grades are so bad and this is hard. So that helped even with something that wasn't to do with grieving. So we just kind of talk about things and work through any problems, and it's just like a positive space.
What would you say are things that you've learned about yourself as a result of participating in Treehouse groups?
Just that I'm not alone and that it's not as hard as I thought to like reach out to people and talk to new people about like such personal things, because we all basically are dealing with the same thing, just in different ways. I'm not very good at like joining new things and doing things with people I don't know, and it's like super nerve-wracking and it's easy to feel like it won't help. But I mean, if you're even a little bit interested, I would say to try it because I look forward to it and getting to talk about everything. Our Treehouse has helped me learn that I'm not alone and that there's a lot of other teens out there who are dealing with really similar situations, which it didn't occur to me because when you're dealing with something so hard, it seems like it's only you. Losing somebody doesn't only come with like the emotional baggage, it also comes with costs and things that shouldn't be dealt with at that time, but that you have to deal with. And so like having something for your children that you know that they can do without having to worry about that extra burden is really nice. And I know that my mom appreciates me having other people to talk to, and I appreciate it. And yeah, it's a good group.
Now that you've heard all of the amazing things that our Treehouse has to offer, our communities and our families. And you've heard Kylie's moving testimony. I know it goes without saying, our Treehouse is a resource that needs your help and depends on your help. So before I go more into that, I would like to pause for a moment and let me help you walk back on the past year and a half and all of the sacrifices that your family has had to make because of COVID. I know that we are all sick and tired of talking about COVID and hearing about COVID. I know that I am, but the reality is COVID is still here and we're still dealing with it. So I would like for you to think about the children in your life. Maybe these are your own school-age kids. Maybe you have college-age kids or grandchildren or nieces and nephews in your life. And if you do, I'm sure that you can come up with a long list of sacrifices that they have made and you have made over the past year and a half. I know I don't need to remind you the impact that all of those missed connections have had on your family. But what we do need to remember is the impact of those losses on our community members that are grieving. I think I speak on behalf of everyone at our Treehouse when I say that I have never before seen such a demand for mental and behavioral health services as I do now. The wait lists are so long and they feel like forever when it's you that's in pain or it's your child that's in pain. Our Treehouse never ever wants to be a resource that has to turn people away. We want to be a reliable and dependable resource for our community, and that is needed now more than it's ever been needed before. Your generous donation tonight will ensure that no child grieve alone, that our Treehouse will remain a safe space where people come to heal and to grow. COVID has taught us so many things. So many lessons have been learned. For me, one of the most valuable lessons is that life can flip on a dime. Overnight, everything can change. So now is the time more than ever that we contribute to the resources that keep us strong and hold us up when change happens. But I want to share with you a story. I went out to dinner with friends last night, and this woman who I was with is a parent and a teacher in our community. She's also been a longtime donor to our Treehouse and has seen many families use our services over the years that she's lived here and taught here. And when I was telling her that I was preparing for what I was going to say tonight, she made an analogy that I thought was just beautiful. She said, parenting is hard enough when you don't have a child that's grieving. So when we're parents, we kind of act as this vessel, this bucket, and we try to contain all of our kids' stuff. Their worries, their fears, their concerns, and all of those things are like rocks that drop into the bucket. And sometimes that bucket feels unmanageable, and you feel like you're sinking, and that you can't carry that bucket. She said, our Treehouse is the net, and we're there to hold the weight of that bucket. So when it feels too heavy and too scary and too much, our Treehouse is there so you don't drown. In closing, I would like for you to once again reflect on everything that your family has had to endure over these past almost 2 years, and then to consider what it would be like having gone through all of those losses and all of those sacrifices while also losing someone close to you. So with your generous donation tonight, you will help ensure that no child grieves alone, and that our Treehouse can keep our doors open to be a reliable, dependable place where families can come to heal and to grow.
Thank you for supporting our Treehouse. Your contribution provides valuable support, community, and hope for grieving children, their families, teens, and young adults in our community.
To donate to our Treehouse tonight, please visit our website, www.our-treehouse.org, or mail in a check, 909 Squalicum Way, Suite 106. Thank you for your support.